Welcome back, fellow gamers. So today I want to talk to you about PucaTrade. Now, you might be saying, what the heck is PucaTrade? And if you're not a Magic the Gathering player, I'll see you next video. Because it's a strictly Magic the Gathering platform or website that allows you to trade cards. By trading cards is a bit of a misuse of the word. Misuse of the word trading, because you're essentially sending people cards and you are receiving points that you can then have people send you cards in exchange for those points. So you're not selling, you're not trading, you're kind of sending away your cards in good faith that they will get there and that somebody will send you back cards. There's no guarantee on either front. However, I have been using PucaTrade since 2014, November 2014 to be exact. And I've had really great experience. So I've acquired cards like a Judge Foil Gaia's Cradle, Foil Liliana the Veil, Mishra's Factory, a lot of good cards. I've sent out about $7,000 worth of cards, and I've gotten back $7,000 worth of cards tied into, I think the last check was like 77 different cards. So I'm averaging quite well on my card per cost. And these are cards that I thought I would never acquire because they're just too expensive and they were too hard to find. So like a Judge Foil Gaia's Cradle. I never thought I was going to have a regular Gaia's Cradle, whatever. Just because it was an expensive card for me at the time that I wanted to acquire it. And then I wouldn't want to really pay a premium for the Judge Foil. And that was kind of before I was collecting foils, and this kind of made me that foil collector. So in that sense, it's great. It's worked out great for me, but it's not without its flaws. So, as I mentioned, you're essentially sending cards to people in good faith that they'll say they arrived. Now, yes, you can use tracking, but if you are not in the United States, tracking can be pretty prohibitive, to say the least. It doesn't really work for everybody, and then you've got to factor in your cost per envelope. So, a top loader is like 25 cents. Your envelope might cost you, 25 cents again. And then, so that's 50 cents right there, and you're not even factoring in postage. So let's say postage is $1. So you're then, let's say $1.50. So if you trade a card that's under $1.50, you're losing the card for free, essentially. Secondly, if you are selling or trading that card, I said selling, I think. I meant sending away. If you're sending away a card that's worth $3, well, you're only getting half of that value, almost equivalent to if you would have just sold it at your local game store. So you need to be mindful of that. So you just can't send off cards like willy-nilly and expect to accumulate a wealth of points while still maintaining your value ahead of the curve. So what I mean by that is, yeah, you can continue sending all those cards, and you might end up with 500 Puca points, but you spent $500, so you just buy the card in that case, or buy the cards you need, and don't spend the $500 on shipping, on top loaders, envelopes, and all that stuff. Let alone your time of sorting through your cards, putting them in the envelope, going to the post office. So it does have that, there is a time investment and a money investment up front, because as I guess you guys can piece together, there is a payment from the sender. So it's not the receiver that's actually paying for the card to be shipped to them. It's the person who's sending the cards. And as a person sending the cards, you are responsible for that card getting to the receiver. Now, there is something called the PucaTrade guarantee, and it's something that's kind of changed since I've been on the site, which is kind of disheartening. Essentially what it was before is that you were under the PucaTrade guarantee that if a card went lost or there was a problem in the trade, you would be credited your points. And likewise, if you never received your card, you would be covered as well. It used to be any trade at any time. They since changed that, and it's only if the card value is under $50 or 500 or 5,000 points, or if it was over 5,000 points and you had tracking on it. If it's over 5,000 and you didn't have tracking, well, you're shit out of luck. So that went from, kind of like people signing up and then not realizing all of a sudden they're covered. And that's one of the things is PucaTrade sometimes changes their terms and conditions. One aspect was at one point you can technically cash out where you would sell off your points. And then all of a sudden, without an announcement, they made it illegal, or not illegal, because that's a bit hard of a word, but they made it against the rules to sell points. Now, the justification on that, I can understand it, but to just kind of sneak it in there and not really make an announcement, it was only when people started noticing that they actually said something, was kind of shady. And that's the kind of thing that kind of puts me off PucaTrade. I love it. Like I said, I've had great success, but like these types of activities are very worrisome. Because if it's just that one thing, what's not to say that there won't be another thing that's changed? And people often refer to PucaTrade as a pyramid scheme, which it isn't. I think that's the wrong terminology. It does feel wrong sometimes when when you're sending off so many low value cards and you're getting a big piece of, let's say Power 9. Like there has been Power 9 that's been traded on the site. And by wrong, I mean good. It feels good, but like there's just an aspect of it. It's very high risk. And especially now there's a overabundance of points in the system. So what happens is that we have long queues for people waiting for certain cards. It used to be I put a card up on my want list and it was, sent to me within minutes. Now, PucaTrade has said that they will have something along the lines and they're looking into it, but how long that will take, we don't know because they don't tell us that much. If you're an existing player, you have a huge collection and you want standard staples, even some modern staples are pretty well traded. I would say, give it a look. Don't bank too much into the system because honestly, as I mentioned, they keep changing terms and conditions. I wouldn't be surprised if at one point they come out and they say something like, now all the trades are taxed in order to get points out of the system, which is fine if that's the way they want to do it, but I don't feel that there's going to be a lead up. I feel it's just going to be implemented one day, and I really hope that's not the case. But with everything else they've done so far, there's not a, oh, by the way, these are the terms and conditions that will be changing, and they will take effect at X date in the future. It's usually slid in and nobody mentions it. So hopefully I'm wrong. Now, if you are a newer player and you kind of have a moderate collection, I don't think PucaTrade would be the way to go. If you do want to trade cards, I would say look locally, or there's certain websites that do offer trading. That might be the way to go. Until really PucaTrade settles itself out and they can finalize their point discrepancy, or not finalize it, but balance it, get it more in line with who has them and who doesn't, then you're okay. But regardless, if you still plan on using PucaTrade, you do need to know that the user base has grown significantly since I joined in 2014. And as with any community, there are bound to be bad apples. I went from having essentially no problems to having almost a problem every single trade. I'm currently waiting on a foil winter orb that was supposed to be sent to me at the beginning of June when Eternal Masters came out, and the person has yet to send, and they've just not communicated. Other times I'm having people, when they send me cards, are scratched to shit. They are the worst cards I've ever seen, passed off as near mint, which is one of the terms and conditions that you only send near mint. But it's not even something that's really applied. I'll get to that in a second. And then they tell me that that wasn't the card that they sent me and that I'm trying to scam them. Well, as I mentioned, I've traded probably, about $14,000 worth coming and going, and only now I'm starting to get people where I'm apparently trying to screw them. And other times it's, my cards haven't arrived, which I've been on the internet trading and buying and selling since 2001. And up until PucaTrade, I was very proud to say I hadn't lost a package. In the last, let's say since March, since February, I've lost one package a month and sometimes two. And to the point now the administrators and moderators are saying, well, this looks like it's really becoming a pattern. Well, I know I sent out my cards. And I know that mail doesn't get lost that frequently. So something's got to give, and I'm starting to get really suspicious about who or what kind of people I'm trading with. Now, there is an option to block difficult traders and to block people that you personally have had problems with. I've unfortunately had to use this 3 times now, and hopefully hopefully PucaTrade gets a little stiffer with their members that are causing problems and are always complaining. Like, if a person's always saying that he's missing a card, then PucaTrade should look into that. The byproduct, though, is that, like, I'm now being investigated because a bunch of different people are now claiming that they haven't received the card. That's kind of shitty. Back onto the near mint. So it is a rule stated that you can only trade near mint cards or only send near mint cards. Now, you can definitely talk to your trading partner and ask, hey, I have, a card that might be of lesser condition. Are you interested? And if the other person says yes, great. You guys can work it out. Either it's straight up for whatever the value is, or you make an adjustment on the points total. But there is that avenue. What I do have a problem with is when I receive a card, I haven't been told, nobody's told me that it's not near mint. I open the case, the guy argues with me that it is near mint when clearly it isn't. I get an administrator involved, they agree that the card isn't near mint, and then I'm the one that has to put money into the system again to send the card back. I have a big problem with that because now I'm essentially, spending $1.25, $1.30 depending on where it is. I'm sending a card out. Yes, I get the Puca points equivalent, but I don't want more Puca points if I can't get rid of them. What should happen is that these traders should be held responsible. If PucaTrade wants to hedge the points out of these people's accounts, they send me a pre-stamped envelope to send back. That's great. I would be all for that. So I don't have to put more money into the system because somebody else isn't following the rules. That's kind of what bugs me about the whole thing. Besides from that, I've kind of shit on PucaTrade or some of their terms and conditions for a few minutes now. I will continue using PucaTrade, but I'm very weary about the direction it is going in. I had a really large collection, so for those of you who don't know, I had something like 60 or 70 commander decks. I was going freaking crazy, and I had a lot of multiple cards. And this is after Modern Masters 1 rolled out, and I was kind of seeing a trend where they would start reprinting most of these modern staples with increased frequency. And at the time I had a lot of non-foils, and my collection was really centered in Zendikar, the original Zendikar block, the Innistrad block, and a few blocks in between, like the Alara block. So I didn't want my value to completely tank with reprints, so I decided to keep only one of each card. So I had this huge collection now of extra cards I didn't need, and I've been able to transfer them into other cards that I not owned and never thought I was going to own, and that's great. I love that, and I hope that PucaTrade kind of rights their ship. Like I can actually I can list a whole amount of things I would do differently or suggestions that I would put into the system to help it maybe run smoother and try to weed out those users that aren't truthful or they aren't there to help the community, and they're there just kind of to weasel their way through and get some extra points and extra cards. But with that said, use PucaTrade. If you have a large collection you're looking to get rid of, maybe you're looking to get into Legacy or Vintage, it is possible, but it's going to take you a long time with the way that the point system currently is set up, with the imbalance between users who want cards and the points available. I don't know if PucaTrade will start implementing a tax system. If they do, maybe it kind of helps settle everything. But I hope that they tell the users ahead of time and that they give us a forewarning. So with that said, that's my thoughts on PucaTrade. It's a bit longer and a bit more unstructured than I intended. I didn't really write up a script, kind of off the cuff, and I apologize for that if I seemed a bit scatterbrained. But I definitely appreciate you guys taking the time to stick with me through this video, and I hope that it was, some more information for you if you are still deciding to get on PucaTrade or not. I do hope to maybe trade some Magic cards with you guys. Thank you again for watching.